3, 2, 1.
Hi, Ray here. It's great to see you. I've dragged myself away from important yard work to comment on Apple's spring-loaded announcements. Yesterday, the Cupertino Colossus announced, amongst other things, like new AirTags, Apple 4K TV, and iPad Pro, the highly anticipated 24-inch iMac for 2021. Will I, an Apple acolyte, be ordering any of these new products? My main office computer is a late 2012 iMac, so coming on 9 years old. I maxed it out spec-wise when I bought it in early 2013. So it boasts 32 gigabytes of RAM, which I bought from a third party. And that's something that you won't be doing with these new silicon computers since it's integrated into the chip. But anyway, yeah, this has a 3.4 gigahertz Intel Core i7 processor with an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 630 megahertz 2 gigabyte graphics card. It still functions well. It'll handle 4K video editing as long as I don't pile on effects, and no problem running Photoshop and Lightroom, the apps I use most often. Last summer I sprang for a new MacBook, right here. My also 2012 base model was very tired and not up for graphics heavy work. So I needed a replacement for armchair and bistro use if we ever get to sit in bistros again. So I stuck with the 13-inch rather than spring for the 16-inch with the dedicated GPU. Price was also a consideration, but this maxed out 13-inch was still not cheap. I configured it with a 2.3 gigahertz quad-core Intel Core i7 processor, 32 gigabytes of memory, and Intel's 1536 megabyte Iris Plus graphics card. And wouldn't you know it, the M1 MacBooks debuted a couple of weeks after I bought this. I added the CalDigit TS3 Plus dock so I can plug the MacBook right into the system, which includes the BenQ SW271 4K monitor, which the iMac won't power. And incidentally, I think the SW271 is a pretty good display for the price, $1,500 Canadian. And I like being able to switch between different color profiles, like RGB and sRGB. So when I'm maybe printing, but also making something for the web, black and white, and Rec 709 for video, with the little, what they call the hotkey puck. Now, I don't forget to change between those quite so often. The hardware calibration with the Palette Master Element software is excellent. My old X-White Color Monkey also still works with it. BenQ has just released an update, the SW271C. And I'll just go into the improvements on that for a moment. It has something called paper color sync mode for your different papers, support for native refresh rate other than 60 Hertz, video pro features, avoid 3.2 pull down jitters, and support for HDR10 and HLG. It has a 16-bit 3D LUT up from the 14-bit in the SW271, and native USB-C with 60 watts PD, and a new version of the hotkey puck. Anyway, all I use the old iMac for now, essentially, is to run my Epson V750 Pro scanner. Not surprisingly, the 2020 MacBook Pro is not much better when it comes to 4K video editing than the old iMac. It also will choke if I ask it to do too much, in terms of effects, noise reduction, and multiple threads. And rendering of anything over a short, simple video takes forever. With fans, actually, attempting to lift the computer out of the clamshell cradle. So using proxy media is the way to go. As for the new iMac, there's two models, or will be by the end of May. The base model starts with Apple M1 chip, 8-core CPU with 4 performance cores and 4 efficiency cores, a 7-core GPU. 16-core neural engine with a 256 gigabyte SD, which you can upgrade to 512 gigabytes or 1 terabyte. The higher end model has, again, the Apple M1 chip, 8-core CPU with 4 performance cores and 4 efficiency cores and an 8-core GPU, and a 16-core neural engine. And with that, the storage is configurable to 1 terabyte or 2 terabytes, which for me is more like it. This is a 2 terabyte storage on this MacBook Pro 2020 model. The base model has just 2 Thunderbolt USB 4 ports, while the higher end adds 2 USB 3 ports. There's a 3.5mm headphone jack on the side of this ultra thin chassis, which is about as thin as the bottom of this MacBook. You can configure the base model for gigabit Ethernet. It comes stock with the more expensive model, and that connectivity comes through a MagSafe power cord. So that's pretty interesting. I won't go into exhaustive detail on the specs, other than to say, when it comes to working with video and photos, in yesterday's event, Apple says the new 24-inch M1 iMac is capable of editing 5 streams of 4K footage or 1 8K stream without dropping frames. So Canon R5, Sony A1, and future owners of the Nikon Z9 take note. They're claiming an 85% faster CPU performance than the previous 21-inch iMac, 2 times faster GPU performance for apps like Photoshop, 50% faster than previous 21-inch iMacs. The 24-inch screen is a 4.5K Retina display, 4480 by 2520 resolution at 218 pixels per inch, with support for 1 billion colors and at 500 nits brightness. It has a wide color P3 True Tone technology that adjusts for like room ambience, and it has a 1080p FaceTime camera. Now that's a big, though rather tardy, improvement, and I'm sure that'll be appreciated by those who are in these plague years spending a lot of time on video conference calls. It will support just one external display with up to 6K resolution at 60 Hz. So I guess it would power one of Apple's Pro Display XDR monitors if you have a spare 5,000 US kicking around. I won't hold out on you anymore. I won't be ordering one of these 24-inch iMacs. That last spec is one reason why. Eventually, I want to run 3 displays for video editing. At first I thought, well, maybe the 24-inch would be a space saver on my desk, and you can see things are kind of crowded here. Maybe the 24-inch would fit nicely between 2 screens, say, there and there. But I think I'm going to have to come up with a whole new desk, and if and when I go that route anyway. And I thought when I heard rumors that the new iMac was going to come in colors that I'd have no interest. But I have to say, at least at first blush, some of them look nice. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below what you think about these new colored iMacs. But really it's the specs that aren't impressive, relatively speaking. There's been buzz about the so-called M1X chip, but obviously this is the same chip in the M1 MacBooks that were released last year. Aside from the 4.5K screen, which sounds brilliant, is this just an M1 MacBook in a pretty box? I don't know. I'm not a technical expert. I try to learn just enough to make the right buying decisions to get my work done as proficiently as possible. That work being photo and video editing. So it's CPU and GPU that gets the work out, and as I say, the thermals really are the bottleneck, so to speak, in the present systems. Something the new integrated chips apparently leave behind. That's what I've heard from first-hand reports. But I'm fine for now. I'll keep checking the YouTube guys whose job it is to speculate on such things. And the speculation now is that the larger iMac, possibly a 30 or 32-inch, might not arrive until December or September. June possibly? Will it be the new iMac Pro? Who knows? I'm going to have to start saving anyway, especially if I decide to buy a Nikon Z9. Thing is, once I decide, I certainly don't want to be buying a new computer in a year or two. I'd like to think that a silicon model would last me at least the same amount of time as this excellent 2020, so I should say 2012 iMac has. And by the way, the first iMac I bought in 2007 is still working fine, albeit somewhat slowly, in my wife's office. Last year when we moved, or 2 years ago when we moved, I was going to sell it. I figured, I don't know, get $100 or so, and that could be put towards a new MacBook. Long story short, we decided to keep it, and Apple technical support helped me find an unlisted OS X update. So it lives on. So yeah, not the 24-inch iMac. However, I'm the perfect target market for those AirTags. You can order a bundle of 4 for, I think it's $99. I think I'll buy at least a couple of bundles, so I'll also attach one to myself so my wife can find me when I get lost between this office and the upstairs storage room trying to find a spare tripod plate. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss new content. Take care of yourselves. Cheers. We'll see you later.